Alright, I'm getting this guy on Skype. Hold on, children. Hey, hello?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
That last guy was a little nervous, huh?
A little bit. Hey, can you type something in the Twitch chat real fast just so that I can verify that this is you?
Yeah, just a sec. Just a sec. It's loading.
Okay. Alright, there we go. Cool.
So, I'm not the best representative. I mean, I'm not like a super educated feminist, gender studies guy.
Yeah,
I'm
that's fine.
actually, yeah. So, I'm not the best representative, but I can at least get more out of my mouth than I love you.
That's good. So I guess then to reiterate my original point was I thought that this got blown up way too big and that I don't think that this was necessarily had much to do with like gender or sexism stuff, and I'm a little bit disappointed that it seems like Metal has turned it into that. That was my original point, right?
Well, I mean, considering it's not that it's such a horrible thing that is unacceptable. I mean, it's understandable given the culture of gaming that he would say rape. I mean, I guess we agree on that. The thing is, the point we disagree on is it's just a shitty thing to say in general, right? It's not that. See, I'm unprepared for this, so
No,
not
it's
the
I
best.
mean like to some extent, and again, and to further clarify my point, or to reiterate what I said earlier about the clarification of my point, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I wouldn't go into a job interview. I mean, my Twitter is kind of a special exception since I'm so edgy. But if I had like a normal Twitter, or whatever, and I was a public figure, I probably wouldn't tweet. If I was like an NBA player, I probably wouldn't tweet like, "Oh my God, we just raped the Lakers last night." Probably not. It's not like it's not. It's just not because of everything that's going on now. It's just not the best thing to say. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Yeah, and it's not only the part we disagree on is it's not only stupid, it's just a shitty thing to say, right? I mean, it's bad. I mean, let me, try to make this clear. Do you think it's bad to say that, or do you think it's just stupid?
I mean, it gets a lot more nuanced. It's hard to say. Um, is it bad to necessarily say it like that? I don't necessarily know. Is it bad that that word became like embedded in gamer culture? I think you can make a stronger argument for that maybe. But I mean, like in terms of like Cass saying it, I mean, like, have you played games for a long time?
Oh yeah, I mean, first game was like Duke Nukem 3D when I was like 6 or something like that. I don't know.
Oh shit! How old are you?
I'm 25,
Oh,
so.
okay, okay, okay. All right, just checking. It's not really that relevant, but I mean, like I mean, it's kind of a word that's been a part of, and I'm not trying to say whether or not it's good or bad, but I mean,
Oh,
rape has
oh
been a
yeah,
word that's been a part of gamer culture for so long. So is it absolutely terrible that Kaz said it here? I mean,
oh, totally, yeah. It's part of gaming culture. I mean,
mm-hmm.
whatever the hell that is. But it's, I mean, it's getting to the point now. I mean, with the internet, it's people are expressing their opinion that it's just a shitty thing to say and we shouldn't say it. And I think that's totally reasonable, given how much it actually happens in real life to people. It's a really horrible thing, and
Yeah.
I think it should.
I mean, I
I
would
think it's just
argue
a little.
that, and I'm
I
not
think it's
trying to
just.
do I'm not trying to do the thing where like you like, oh well, since this is this, like nothing anything, but like I would argue that murder is a worse crime than rape, and I think most people would agree with that for the most part. But
I
nobody
would
has
say.
any issue whatsoever with saying like, oh God, he killed him that last year. Oh my God, he murdered him. Like it was. So it seems like a little bit, it's a little bit confusing, I guess. No.
Um, I would say that, I mean, I don't think the argument should be about which is worse. I mean, both of them are just horrible. They shouldn't happen, period, right? It's
You
just
don't think
it's just
anybody could ever use the word? I mean, isn't that? I mean, oh man, I don't want to drift too far off the original point because then the argument becomes absurd. But I mean,
yeah, exactly. We don't want
metaphors,
to get off on a tangent.
metaphors and similes are part of the English language, and it's one of the things that makes the language so powerful. Your language in general, right? Like
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you get to the points where like you start like, oh, like you can't say murdered or killed, or like you can't like say even technically like annihilated wouldn't even be a good word because you're not really absolutely annihilating an opponent, you're just defeating them in a video game. Like, do we have to become like 100% descript in everything we say? Like, oh man, like Cass, completely reduced the opponent's army size to zero and then destroyed his buildings. Like, I mean, like at some
I mean,
extent, like it gets
obviously not, and I think that's a little bit of a straw man argument, right? I mean,
a
I don't
little bit
think
of a
any,
slippery slope. I would agree that that was sure. I mean,
I,
I would agree.
I, yeah, I mean, I don't think any social justice warrior is saying we can't use any descriptive adjectives, right? Or any type of nouns that might have a little bit bad connotation. All right,
Sure.
it's but you have to consider the context. Um, the statistics. I mean, whether are you still there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So the statistics, I mean, whether or not you believe them, I mean, you could say, it's lower or whatever, but the statistics are that, 1 in 6 or 1 in 4, depending on which statistics you go by, of women in their lifetime get raped. And
Ah, that's not
so,
true.
yeah. So, yes, I'm saying that, okay, you might disagree with the statistics.
Well, no. That statistic, what you just said, it was like it was more like 1 in 6 women have been sexually assaulted. But the definition for that study of sexually assault also included had sex while slightly intoxicated. So I mean that 1 in 6 study gets
Okay.
thrown around a lot. But I
Okay.
mean I understand what you're saying. It's something that does affect quite a few people. Sure.
Yeah. And that's another thing we could discuss. That's kind of a minefield of a topic. What's considered rape and all that. I mean, I've heard you talk about it on the stream before. In fact, that's, I mean, one of the reasons I kind of became a feminist or whatever you want to call it. Went over to the other side. I don't know. I don't even like saying it's like another side because because my opinions are more subtle than that. But
Okay, so I'm kind of glad that you brought that up because this is like incredibly frustrating for me because if you look at like what it appears to be like the core tenets of feminism, like it almost seems like feminism shouldn't be a thing because there's some things that like any decent human being should subscribe to, right? I think that like the core tenets of feminism are things that pretty much every single reasonable person on the planet
totally,
probably
totally.
agrees, right?
I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Sure.
my interpretation of feminism is, I mean, from the gist of it is just don't be a shitty fucking asshole. I mean, that's just be a decent person. I mean, that's kind of the gist of it, and I could totally subscribe to that. Like,
Yeah, for the most part, sure.
there are subtleties to it, and that you may disagree on, but it's not
Okay, but now
such.
this is like the most important thing when you talk about those subtleties. Okay, there are subtleties that require like a lot of discussion and legitimate discussion to change them. Different things like do you think that like using certain terminology could be bad, or do you think that like using certain words maybe has a negative effect? Like these are very subtle things, right?
Sure,
One
sure,
of the
and this,
things one of the
yeah,
things
and
that I absolutely fucking hate is that all of these people that have, for the most part, reasonable viewpoints on things, if they find somebody that disagrees with them on one subtlety, they turn into these feral, vicious fucking people that are like absolutely like, oh, like every single thing about that person becomes funneled in through that one subtlety that they either misunderstand or disagree on. And it's the most
okay.
counterproductive thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
I totally see that, and I totally see where you're coming from on that. Like, I mean, the problem is that when stuff like this comes up,
Mm-hmm.
a normal person that's disconnected from like the gaming scene, see, they don't know who Cass is, they don't know who you are, they don't know who these people are. And the people they have experience with generally saying things like, "I'm gonna rape this person," or saying general shitty or racist things. I mean, their general experience with these people is that they are horrible people that say horrible, horrible things. They and they don't necessarily spend the time to investigate, the subtleties of that person's opinion and their personality and whether or not they are actually a racist, misogynist person. They just, take what they said, and because they have so much experience with shitty people before, they say, well, this person is probably just like, the other people I have experience with, right?
Sure.
So I think that's where they're kind of coming from. Like they don't actually, you know, they may jump to conclusions a little bit, and but I think that often that's justified. If you look at, I mean, if you go on the shit Reddit says subreddits, right?
Hmm.
Which is a circle jerk, and you know they're, and if you want more serious discussion, you go elsewhere, right? But if you look at the type of people they kind of make fun of, which is kind of a funny thing to say, the people that are saying these shitty things are generally subscribed to subreddits like fat people hate and r slash n word, or all these really hateful subreddits. So generally, the experience that people
I
in
as
search of justice,
somebody as somebody
uh,
that as somebody oh, I have to disagree with that, and as shameful as it is to say, as somebody that actually reads the shit Reddit says subreddit pretty often, I think that it's actually a minority of the time that the person is actually subscribed to like the fat hates or the fat logic or the nigger subreddit or the edgier subreddits where they just hate on people. The majority of the time, it just seems to be people who are just putting forth the same jokes, that the same tired sexist racist jokes that have been seen time and time and time again. I think that's
yeah,
like the majority of the people that get called out on SRS. There are a lot of people that get called out on the shit Reddit subreddit though, who legitimately feel like it looks like they have like somewhat legitimate opinions that need to be a little bit more nuanced, or maybe could take like a little bit more argumenting to refine the points because they're a little bit bad. But then SRS like completely annihilates them based on those subtleties again.
and that's funny you say completely annihilates. I mean, they're just saying this person. I mean, they're basically in their own subreddit saying this person said this shitty thing. Fuck them. It's not. I mean, they're not. I mean, you may have a different experience with it because you're kind of a public figure, but they don't usually go after the person and like hunt down their information and hunt down their family. They're not really destroying
Oh
them.
yeah, no,
They're
I
just,
agree with that. Have you seen the movie? Oh God, I just saw this movie like 3 weeks ago, so I'm not trying to binge on it too much. But have you seen the movie American History X?
oh yeah, yeah, and a long time ago, yeah.
Okay, so I feel like people in their mind have different ways that they envision different people, right? When you think of somebody who's a racist, right? This person is usually a blithering idiot. They're blatantly racist. They're very bigoted. They're insanely ignorant. And they're just
Sure,
an
yeah.
all around just like a fucking terrible person. They probably abuse their kids. They're probably a feather slob. Like you have all these negative opinions of them, right? One of the reasons why I liked American History X is because the guy at the beginning of the movie, even though he's incredibly racist, he's very smart and he defends his points very well, right? It's like, oh shit, like it just gives you another way to look at things, right? And now I'm not saying that, oh, that makes racism good. I'm saying that it's a more realistic viewpoint of like how like people aren't just one dimensional, right?
Totally,
The
totally.
the
And
one the
yeah.
let me just finish this real fast because on the shit Reddit says subreddit, right? You have these paradigms for people, right? A racist is X, right? And X is all of these horrible tenets, right? All of the horrible things over there. Obviously, they hate all black people. They want to kill every black, blah 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 blah, right? So what they do is they find on the internet, they'll find a comment where somebody says one thing, right? Somebody will make, what's the tired eye joke that you hear a million times? Like, oh, like, what do you see in this Reddit picture? And it's a picture of nothing. Somebody goes, a black father. Ha ha ha, because that's the funny, yeah,
Yeah.
right? The same tired eye. So then people see that comment like, oh, ha, this guy's a racist. And then all the other things, he's instantly subscribed to every other tenet of what it means to be the worst possible racist person in the history of the universe, right? Like that
Yeah.
that that bothers me because it's an incredibly ignorant way of thinking, and it reminds me so much of, and my parents did a lot, like the Glenn Becks and the Rush Limbaughs and the Sean Hannitys of the world in politics, where you talk about liberals and how everything they do is terrible and horrible for the country and blah blah blah. It's the same
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Okay, yeah. So your experience with it and my experience with it are seem to be a little different. Like when I go there, or I guess maybe I don't go there as much as you, or maybe I go there more than you. I don't know which it is, but when I see it, usually, I mean, the people that are saying these things, you go into their subscriptions or post history, and they're just hateful people. Period. Like, um, and I think that's generally the experience that social justice warriors or feminists have with people that express these type of opinions. Is generally they don't have subtle viewpoints. They have just purely racist, misogynistic, and just homophobic, shitty viewpoints. And I think that's where they're coming from. And I think that you might want to try to understand that they're coming from that viewpoint of these people are most likely, given my experience, shitty people. Like, and I think that's why they jump to conclusions on stuff like this.
I think that's a bad thing to do almost always, unless you absolutely have to. If you're
It's
walking down
it's
like the streets of Compton or whatever, and it's like a life or death situation, and you have to make a quick snap call like that, then sure, like I'd be a little bit more lenient there. But to see somebody say one thing on the internet that's bad and then instantly subscribe them to all of the most extreme tenets of every possible thing that could be related with, I think that's a really bad way of conducting yourself. I think that it
not
creates.
saying not I'm not saying it's a productive thing.
Uh
I'm
huh.
not saying the best thing. I'm saying that it's an understandable thing.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
saying
Oh, yeah,
that
no, and I understand it. I do understand it, but it's something that. But I mean, I understand that much the same way that I'm sure that you understand why Koss said he was going to rape Madalisk and why it wasn't sexual,
totally.
right? Just because you understand it doesn't necessarily mean you condone
He
it or think it's acceptable, right?
he wasn't saying that he was literally. I mean, like I think I've seen the dude like cast or whatever or play. Is he a caster as well as a
No, he
player?
play. Well, he might guess cast, but no, he's mainly a player.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I figured he wasn't actually saying that. The thing is, putting it in a broader context, it is a shitty thing to say. Women do get sexually assaulted and raped a lot, like way too much, way more than people think. And
Hmm, maybe.
yeah, well, okay. Well, I mean, from my experience, people tend to underestimate the amount of shit that women get. It's just that's just one of the things that I've
I mean
experienced.
that's a whole other discussion too, because that gets a lot more nuanced into what do you deem to be rape. Because we've gotten into a point where a lot of people are saying things like anytime you have sex while intoxicated, it's rape, and a lot of people
Um,
disagree with that
that's
on both
that's
sides. So I mean,
that's I think that's again a straw man argument. I don't think that most reasonable and okay, we're getting into the no true Scotsman thing, but
sure.
I don't think that any reasonable person coming from the feminist perspective says that if two people are slightly tipsy, they can't have sex or it's rape. We're raping each
Unfortunately,
other.
I don't know if I can agree with that point anymore because you've got a lot of very outspoken feminists now. Like, have you heard of that
Well, I
Lacey
mean,
Green?
vocal minority, right?
I don't even know if that's necessarily true anymore. It seems like there's been a big push lately towards the if you have any kind of sex whatsoever while you're intoxicated, it's rape. I've seen that. Maybe I'm reading the wrong subreddits, but I see that put
I, I,
forth a
I think I
lot.
think I think you. I mean, from your apparently your experience with these arguments is very different from mine. My experience with it is that the general gist of it is that if you get a woman shit faced drunk and they're stumbling around and they just collapse on the bed and you have sex with them and they can't and they're just too drunk to do anything. I mean, that's clearly rape, right? Right? We could both agree with that, right?
For sure, but I don't think there's
For sure,
anybody
for
that's
sure.
ever disagreed with that for the most part.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
obviously, maybe some frat boys that are being fucking stupid, yeah, but it seems like it's gotten to be a lot more than that now, where the average person is saying, like, oh, if you get somebody like pretty drunk out to the bar and then you go back and you have sex with them, like that's not a good thing to do. Like, if a
okay,
person can
yeah.
still like walk and talk and shit, and they're like they have their basic functionalities around them, like I don't know if I would consider that rape, even if they don't necessarily remember it the next day. If they're blackout drunk, like throwing up or passed out, and you have sex with them, that's pretty fucking obviously rape. But if they're still able to like communicate with you, even if it's a little bit slurred or whatever, and they seem like they're like, it gets a lot more weird at that point, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I guess again, our experience with this argument must be different. I mean, that's just not the argument I've heard.
Okay.
What the argument I've heard is that if someone's too drunk to really make coherent decisions, then of course it's rape because they just can't consent. They can't, and it's logical. I mean, and that's the reason I went over to the side. Like you had that dude, Irish laddie on, right, and he was
Uh huh.
kind of annoying. But like I PM'd him and I got into this conversation and I was like, well, I kind of still disagree with you, but I'll look at these subreddits. So I went to the subreddits and and they were a lot more reasonable than I thought they were. And I think that's probably your experience with them too, right?
Depending on the subreddit, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not this feminists don't want to take all men out and back and chop their dicks off and then shoot them in the head after harvesting their sperm. Like, and that's generally what it seems like the gamergator guys, or a lot of people on the internet think of feminists. It's a weird distortion of their viewpoints. And so, and another thing that struck me as weird about what you say Anita Sarkeesian is insane.
I
I
believe
think
that
that's
very strongly.
yeah. You believe that, and I'm wondering why that is. Like, what specifically in her arguments?
we're kind of drifting from the original, but I don't like it when
No, okay,
people
okay.
have
I mean,
well, yeah, sure. That this
I
goes
thought
along
you.
with what I was saying earlier, where like some people have like specific narratives that they like to push, like to cite like Rush Limbaugh, for example. His narrative is that every single thing the Democrats try and do is bad for the country because they want to destroy the country. So if Obama passes Obamacare, it's because he's trying to enslave the poor people and he's trying to rob the rich, right? That's why he does it, right? That's how people like that function, right? Anita Sarkeesian functions a similar way in that absolutely every single thing she sees has to fit into like the patriarchy, and in doing that, she ends up hijacking some issues that are incredibly sensitive, and she comes across as like an idiot when she does it, in my opinion. For instance, and the things that I cite, and she's done it with other serious issues as well. I think like hours after that Canadian terrorist shooting, she tweeted something along the lines of, "This is a great example of how toxic masculinity affects our culture," which I think is completely fucking insane to say when issues like mental health have never gotten really the coverage that they need in the United States. To take something that is pretty clearly like a mentally health related issue and then to try to hijack and turn it into a feminist thing, I think is really disgusting. That's why I don't
you and
like
I,
Anita
you and I
Sarkeesian.
can both, you and I can both agree that that was a stupid tweet. Okay, but I would say that there is some validity to the point that this overall culture of, what they call toxic masculinity,
I,
which
I,
in all
I, there's zero validity to it.
I think there's some validity. Okay, and I guess this is another point we disagree on.
Well, I
I
mean,
think
if
there's some.
masculinity contributed more to killing, why is it such an insanely small percentage of the world population that actually commits murders? I know that most of the people that do it are men, but it's a very, 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 very small percentage. Wouldn't more men be murderers if it was masculinity that was involved in it? Like,
No, again, this is an extremely, complicated issue, and I'm again not a gender studies guy, so like, or a social studies guy, but um, I think that there is a legitimate argument to be made that culture. I mean, both of you and I can agree that culture affects how a person thinks. Culture affects how a person grows up and their mind develops and how they view the world. Correct?
to some extent.
To some extent, of
Sure.
course.
Well, or no,
There's
to a large extent. To a large extent, sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's biology too. There's, who your parents were, blah, blah, blah. However, I think it's a legitimate point to say that if a society values a certain set of ideals in men, that they are going to drift toward that set of ideals. And if they don't meet those ideals, it's going to cause some mental anguish. Like that dude that shot up that school because he wasn't getting laid, basically, right? Like,
But see, that's not true. Like, it
I,
wasn't just about
I
him not getting laid. This is another
not
problem.
just not just, but it seemed, if you read his posts, if you read
I
his
watched almost every video on that guy's YouTube channel because he was a shimmering fucking identical person to the XJ9 person. He's literally the exact same person. Masculine,
exactly,
toxic masculinity or patriarchy or whatever aside, that guy was fucking crazy. He had
totally, totally,
no idea what people ever thought about him ever, right? He was just completely crazy, and he was insanely narcissistic. He thought he was perfect, and he couldn't
yeah.
understand. So like those two like mental health issues have nothing to do with patriarchy or masculinity. I mean,
However, yeah, how I would totally agree that he was, a narcissistic asshole, and besides, and probably mentally ill. However, I would say that it is a legitimate point to make that toxic masculinity played a part in what he
I
did.
mean, it might have, but even if it did, it was an insanely minor backseat role to the mental health issues that were
Okay,
affecting him.
okay. So, well, I mean, at least I would say you agree on that. That
To
most
some
likely,
extent, yeah. But I also wouldn't
to
try
some
and
extent,
I
yeah.
wouldn't hijack this issue to try to make it about that.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not purely about that. Nor is it purely, I would say, about mental health. There's a lot of people
It's not
that are
I
depressed. There's a lot of people that are schizophrenic, and we shouldn't demonize them and say, that's the mental health,
no, it's not about the
mental health
demonization.
problems.
It's the fact that mental health people have a lot of fucking problems in the United States and they don't get the attention for it. Something like what, like 60-70% of homeless people are have mental health problems. Like there's
Yeah, I've
insane
heard similar.
numbers like that that they go into that. So and it's a topic that doesn't really get discussed much in the United. Nobody gives a fuck about mental health in the United States. We don't talk about it. We don't do anything about it. We don't try to fund it. None of the politicians ever put their platforms on it. So when issues about it come about, and somebody who might have committed a crime 80% because of mental health reasons and like 2% because of like because of masculinity or culture reasons commits a crime, and
I
you
would
try to
say
make it.
20%, but
I don't
yeah.
even know if I agree with that. Like, I think that that's like a little bit. I think that that's a little bit irresponsible. Like imagine like a soldier goes overseas or whatever and ends up, like fucking like killing a civilian, and then some clothing company says this is why we need to make more Kevlar vests or something. It's like one of those things where it's like, I mean, I guess like maybe it's kind of barely sort of related, but I don't think that like the masculinity thing plays like anything more than an incredibly minor role, because if it did, like, I think there would be a lot more people that would be murderers, right? Because everybody is apparently poisoned and plagued by the patriarchy. Why is it only
Well,
a.
there are different. I mean, there are different levels to the way toxic. And I hate using these feminist terms because people get totally their mind shuts off when they hear shit like patriarchy or rape culture. They're imagining shit that they're just not educated about. That they think that when we say patriarchy, we mean all women are super suppressed and just relegated to the kitchen or whatever it is. People misinterpret these terms. So when I say toxic masculinity, I mean I do think it's a thing, and I do think it affects people's mindsets, and I think there's different levels to which it affects people's mindsets. Okay, some people, yeah, we might not have rampant murderers because of the patriarchy or whatever, but it does affect people's behavior as far as in relationships, abusive behavior, or in just or bullying, making fun of a person because of they're a little bit effeminate, or they don't fit the exact stereotypes of what a man is. And you were mentioning before about women not going out with guys that you play video games or whatever. Well, I mean, I think that is tied into toxic masculinity. The idea of a man, is a football player, a wrestler, a fighter, a tough dude, right? And if you play video games, that's kind of going against the grain. So of course, it makes sense that you'd be made fun of. Uh, because you're going against that grain, and that's why it's called toxic masculinity, because you're not doing anything wrong by playing video games, but because that's the way masculinity is constructed in our society, it's made fun of, right? So I mean, I think that's where that comes in.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I mean, like I said, I think a lot of this stuff is stuff that reasonable people agree with. It's just maybe the degree to which it affects things we disagree on. Um, so yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think I agree with most of what you say. I guess going back then to the Madalist thing, because we're drifting like super hard. Um,
Okay, yeah, yeah, sure.
do
So I mean, I think Madalisk is justified in saying stuff like, I don't, let me see what she actually said. Uh, she said, uh, tried that masters. She just quoted him and said something in Swedish, so I don't know. Then she said that other pro players are saying, "Hello, drama queen. I hope you're not going to cry much, aren't you? Or you get already pathetic." Like, I mean, that's a shitty thing to say. I think it's legitimate to be upset that someone said they were going to rape you, and then you're getting more taunting from people saying that, "Are you going to cry, you little baby? Pathetic." Like, she's has a legitimate reason to be upset that someone said they were going to do a horrible thing to her, just like you would be justified in being upset if someone said, "I'm going to come to your house and whatever."
Okay, but that wasn't what was said at all. Cass didn't
So
say anything sexually. He didn't say that
she
he was going to go to his house and rape. Like, does anybody? Do you really think in reading that tweet? Do you think, or do you think anybody thought that Cass actually meant that in like a rapey, like I'm going to go to your house and rape you?
no, 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 of course not. The But I mean, I think given the context of how often it happens, and how how it's downplayed, and we may disagree on that. I think it's downplayed in our culture, rape that is. Um, it's a shitty thing to say, and she has a legitimate reason to be somewhat upset about that. And I think the tournament has a legitimate reason to dismiss him from the tournament. It's unprofessional behavior, and it's, to be honest, I mean, just a shitty thing to say. Obviously, he tweeted right after it that no tweets, really ashamed. Again, sorry everyone. Hashtag I want to kill myself. I mean, that's like obviously he's also upset about it, and he recognizes that it was a bad thing to say. It was the shitty thing to say. Like, and it's cool that he recognizes that, and it's cool that he's apologizing for that. And I think I don't know. I don't think it's too blown out of proportion to dismiss a guy from a tournament. I mean, it's unprofessional. It's a stupid and shitty thing to say. I don't think Matalisk is wrong at all to be upset by it.
Hmm.
So what part of that do you disagree with? Do you disagree with that?
Pretty much all of it.
Okay, well, I mean, do you disagree that it's a shitty thing to say?
I think that in terms of like a professional like public tweet, it's probably a dumb thing to say.
Okay,
in terms of like shitty, like derogatory, like terrible, horrible thing to say, I'm trying not to make this like a man thing, but like I would expect to see stuff like that tweeted or said, and for everybody to just brush it off and walk away from it very quickly. For MC or partying or anyone else to tweet something like, "Oh, I'm gonna rape you in this tournament" or something, like I don't know, like it's been said so many times in the past. Like I said, I mean, I bring up the examples. There's been screenshots passed around. Nobody really gave a fuck about. Oh, he said rape, but
totally,
now that it happened to a girl, all of a sudden it becomes like a sexism issue.
I think. Well, I
Like
think
it almost seems like the irony. It seems like Cass's biggest mistake here was just treating Madalisk like she was a guy.
I don't. Yeah, and this is another thing. Okay, so one of the reasons is probably it's not come up before that it's a bad thing to say or that this language should change in gaming culture is that it is usually said towards guys, and this is another this actually supports, in my opinion, feminism, that guys aren't really threatened by that word. They don't consider it a legitimate threat.
But I don't think
many very much emotional distress.
Okay, but I don't think but most women don't either. Like see the word rape written on Twitter and like become like visibly like shaken and disturbed at their computer. Like I don't believe that's true for very many people ever.
Of course, yeah, and I would say you're exaggerating a little bit. I don't think that most women are going to see the word rape and instantly start crying and all this. But I do think that most women, that a guy said they're going to rape them, no matter what the context, they'd be a little bit upset. And if they, again, considering how common it is, 1 in 6 of them, might be really upset because they have actually been sexually assaulted or raped in the past. Like it's, I think, again, it's a legitimate thing to be upset about. And going back to my point, men generally aren't upset about that word in the gaming community because they don't feel any sort of legitimate threat. It's not a big deal for men because they are usually the rapists and not the person that gets raped.
That's really disingenuous. First of all, I still have to take issue that 1 in 6 number is bullshit, and also the it's much lower than that, and also the idea that most men are the rapists, like it's a very, 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 we're talking decimals of a percentage of men that actually rape. It's not like,
Sure.
oh well, like 45% of men are rapists, so of course they say it all the time on Twitter because usually they're the ones raping. Like that's a pretty offensive thing to say, I think.
Well, I mean, again, it's not. I did try to. I think I said, rape or sexually assaulted. Now, I mean,
Okay, a very, very decimal percentage of men are involved in like sexual assault, unless
yes,
you're going to consider something like he looked at her
but
boobs as sexual assault or something.
but a very large percentage of women have been victimized by sexual assault. No matter if it's a small.
It's a small percentage of women. It's 1 in 6 being with the most generous definition possible. That 1 in 6 number includes that. But
Okay,
I mean, like even at that, like but you're also every
your
woman.
personal experience with talking to women may be different.
No,
than
no,
mine.
it's not personal experience. It's just stats. The 1 in 6 number. I'm telling you. I mean, we can look up the.
Okay, but there's a 1 in 6 number, and we may disagree on it. And I don't know. I don't think there's no way to tell the exact number because a lot of the time it goes unreported. It and this is it. A lot of the time it goes unreported, and I don't. It's from personal experience talking to women. It does go unreported. But they will tell you about their experiences if you actually talk to them. It so that number, I mean, whether or not it's legitimate, it is, I believe, a high number of women that have experienced some sort of sexual assault. And
Sure.
again,
And I agree with
it's
that to some extent, but like if you're gonna define it that broadly, I don't even think it's that big of a deal. Like if you're gonna say that sexual assault includes something like, well, like when I was at work, this guy slapped me on the ass. Like I'm like this sounds mean to say, but if that's like triggering you years later, like you have severe psychological problems that you need to talk to a therapist about. Like that's not like it sounds like a dick thing to say, but that's not healthy. Like you realize that, right? That like if somebody like smacked you on the
sure.
ass or something, and you're one in the six that was sexually assaulted, and then you saw that somebody tweets and like, oh, I'm gonna rape this guy, and then like you're like getting like visibly upset, like you
Mhm.
have to get therapy for that because you have severe like you have
Okay.
PTSD or something. There's something very
Again,
wrong. Like
there's different levels to it, and I'm not saying I'm definitely not saying that every woman that's saying this that has been in any way sexually assaulted is going to instantly start crying.
okay,
That's
but
not
that's kind of like the portrayal, and like everything that you're saying right now speaks volumes to what I said earlier, and that you should just treat women like children because that's exact. Because like this is how I would treat a child. Like I have to be very careful. I can't mention anything about this because if I do, it might make you really upset. Even if I didn't mean for you to get an upset, like if I just say this one word wrong, you might get really angry. Like that to me, that feels like I'm having a discussion with a child where I have to be very careful because if I just say one wrong word, it's gonna tip over. It's like, oh God, no, that was so bad or sexist or horrible or now I'm triggered. Like it sounds like you're communicating with a child at that point instead of another adult. You know? Does that?
I,
Or
I mean, I don't. I guess I don't really see that perspective. I don't think not making comments about rape. I don't think that's a big thing to ask, first of all, and I don't think second that's treating someone like a child. That's just being a decent person. Like I
so,
wouldn't.
do you think that all of these gamer guys in the past that have constantly used rape towards their friends and everything else, do you think they're indecent people?
I think they. And this is the only legitimate point that the former caller made, that even if someone is not a total piece of shit, they can still say a shitty thing. Like it's totally possible to say something that's bad without being intrinsically a bad person. Like it's okay. I mean, it's okay to say that, okay, this person is, probably, they have a different aspects to their character, but it is legitimate to criticize that they said a shitty thing. I
I
would
mean, I
say that.
guess, but it's something that's gone without criticism for decades. But then as soon as like it's said towards a
Okay,
woman,
okay.
all of a
Well,
sudden
I
now
think
it's
it's a
like,
good thing that it's being criticized.
yeah.
I guess maybe that's a different another difference of viewpoint we have. I think it's a good thing that this language is being criticized. I think it's a good thing. I think it. I think I really do.
Even like and so like what you're saying is like I to some extent I agree with it, right? Because like for decades like white people enslaved black people or for generations, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was a good thing, right? So I mean I agree that to some extent. I just like I feel like and like if you write down all the facts on a piece of paper, right, where we know that Cass isn't a woman hating, blatant, misogynistic, sexual person. We know that Cass didn't intentionally mean that he was going to run to Madelisk's house and rape her as soon as he had the opportunity to. Knowing
Sure.
all of these facts, it just seems like the way that this should have played out is, yo, Cat, like, even if Malice would have tweeted, like, yo, Cass, like, you can't say shit like that. That's fucked up, dude. Like, oh, and like it seems like that should have been it, like two adults discussing this. It seems like that's how it should have went down. Like, dog, you can't say shit like that. Like, come on, man. Like, or like, like, yo, like, now that we actually have like women playing the games and it's not just a big boys club, you can't run around saying you're gonna rape people. Like, that's fucked up, dude. Like, it's not
That
like
would
something
be,
like
oh
that.
my
Like
God,
that.
that would be a great thing.
Okay,
That's
and that,
holy
but
shit.
that seems like how it should have played out. Not like this huge,
Totally,
like
yeah.
Madalis has to write a blog about, and she has to thank her supporters for this difficult, trialing times. Like it seems like holy fuck, like what just happened? Like it seems like things are getting way too. And this is my initial
I
argument. That things are getting way too fucking blown out of proportion. You know?
I don't see where you're saying that it's getting way blown out of proportion. I mean, reading the tweets and stuff. I mean, I don't I don't see it getting. I see it getting blown out a
You
little
don't
bit,
think
but
Madelisk having to write a blog post about it and getting picked up by
where's this blog post that can you link me it?
somebody in chat can like I don't have the link offhand. Somebody in chat will link it though.
Yeah, so I haven't read the blog post, so I don't know. So anyway, the and what you just said, I mean, holy shit. Instead of so I'm not trying to really criticize you too
Yeah, yeah,
much,
sure.
I think you're totally a reasonable person.
It
But
sounds like I'm defending what Cass tweeted, right?
what no. What you just said, like what if it would be fucking awesome if you, as a public and very popular figure, tweeted at Cass or posted a blog or post on Reddit that said exactly what you just said. Hey, dude, we're trying to get women in gaming, and this is kind of insensitive. You should probably not say that. That would be fucking awesome. And that's not really what happened. What happened was that the tournament had to take action. I mean, I correct me if I'm wrong. Did Cass apologize or take it down before he was banned or
Oh, I'm
after he
pretty.
was banned?
I actually I don't want to speak because I'm not entirely sure. I think it all. I think that he apologized and everything. I think it was after he got disqualified, but I'm not entirely sure on that. Somebody might correct me on that. But
Yeah, so I mean maybe
it's
think of
hard.
it.
It's hard
What if instead
sometimes.
of
It's hard sometimes to jump with that side and pile it on because I feel like the corner that I'd be standing in has so many fucking loonies in it that it makes it hard for me to ever want to espouse that point of view. Like,
yeah,
it sounds dumb, but like I'm also like I'm a very pro life person, but
uh-huh,
I'm also incredibly atheist, right? But I hate
yeah,
talking about being pro life because the people that typically stand in my corner are fucking crazy, right? And I don't ever want to be associated with those people. But it's kind of the same thing here. Like why would I jump on this train of fucking Cass in the ass? That's not to be rape or whatever, but of trying to destroy Cass's. That wasn't supposed to be a pun or anything. I didn't mean anything like that. But you know what I mean. Like why would I jump on the bandwagon of like, oh fuck Cass, like, oh this is so bad, blah 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 blah. And like pile on like, Cass, you can't say things like this to women in esports when like it's
and
already gotten into such a like.
not only that, but you have a fine. And I'm not sure if this is one of your motivations, and I don't know if I'm revealing anything, but you seem like totally a reasonable guy, but you have a financial incentive
Yeah, I've said
to
this a million times that I would love it if more women were bowling because it could potentially double my audience, right? Or
yeah,
anyone's
no.
audience.
And what I was going to say is you have a financial incentive to kind of side on a little bit on the gamer gator type of side because most of your viewers are these type of people, right? Like you have a fine
No, 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 no. I would never, ever, ever modify my personal point of view to fit the people that I broadcast to. I would never do
uh,
that. I
okay, well,
promise. I
okay.
would never, ever,
That's
ever do that.
that's kind of the edgy, put you on the spot type of question
Sure,
that I
no,
have.
that's fine. A lot of people accuse me of doing that, but I've never done that in my entire life, and I will never, ever claim to espouse a certain point of view because I think it's what people want to hear. I would never do that.
All right. Yeah, so
Like,
I
I mean,
mean,
like somebody in my chat pointed out earlier, like when I was talking, when we were, whether it was Miss Spike coaching or whatever, like people that talk shit about her, like I used to ban people from my chat that would do that shit a lot because I thought it was really disgusting. I also don't entertain the whole like, oh, Scarlett, she's not even a real woman. Like, I don't entertain those points of view at all either. Like, I'll ban people that say shit like that. I think it's incredibly
and
fucking
that's
stupid.
and that's
Even though
cool.
the
That's
majority of
cool.
my fan base loves to hate on transgender people. So, like, I mean, I'm that's not even a joke. A lot of people hate on transgender people, especially I think a lot of my fan base does too. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't try to just echo anything that I think that other people want to hear. I think that's a really, really silly way to go about doing things.
And I think that's awesome. And I think you're in a position, I mean, whether or not you realize it, you're in a position to affect the opinions of a lot of people. A lot of people look up to you. I mean, whether, I think you average what, like 2,000 viewers? I mean, that's 2,000, let's be honest, 14-year-old kids, white male kids generally, I mean, generalizing, that are looking up to you. And your opinions really do affect the way that they think.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so
I know that, sure.
I mean that's actually my motivation for talking to you at all. I think it's really stupid for me to be on here because I'm not really super prepared, but like I think that's my motivation for talking to you. You're in a position to affect the minds of these and people are getting upset. I'm 22, I'm 16. Okay, dudes. Like
Sure.
but like you're in a position to affect these people's opinions, and I think it's very important that you have reasonable opinions, which I think you do.
Yeah, for sure,
Um,
and I think I do too. But it makes me really sad to see that the discussion that we're having now. Like I feel like there's like this is an issue where like, and this makes me incredibly sad. Did you follow me at all a while ago when I went through the thing with like the word faggot or whatever?
I've been watching you all the way since, live stream.
Okay, so then you
I don't particularly recall
Okay,
that
there was a huge
conversation.
issue, a huge ordeal came up where I thought that it should be okay to say the word faggot publicly, even if some people are against it because of context or whatever, blah, 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 right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
if I could go back like 2 or 3 years ago and talk to myself now, I think that knowing what I know now, I think I could actually like have a discussion that would convince younger me on why that's a bad idea, right? I think that I could have the discussion to do it. The sad thing is that it seems like no one on the internet is capable of having any kind of reasonable discussion about anything involving sexism or homosexuality or anything like that, and that it just turns into these shit slinging fucking flame wars, and everything becomes so fucking insanely blown up and hyperbolic
Because
immediately that it's like
because
the
it's
saddest thing in the world.
because it's a very emotional issue. I mean that's the long and short of it is
I mean,
because
I agree with. I mean, I know it's emotional, but like we're all adults here, right? Like everybody should be able to have a
yeah,
discussion like this. Like looking at the GamerGate thing, right? I didn't even know what GamerGate was. I had no idea, and originally I didn't want to become involved. Well, I mean, really, I'm still not involved in any of it. But like
yeah.
the amount of demonization that goes on. I want to say both sides, but to be honest, I think it happens a little bit more on the anti-Gamergate side, right? This idea that if you're part of Gamergate, you're only there because you want to dox, harass, and rape women, and you want all of them out of like, holy fuck, like you end up with these times where like both sides are arguing about things that nobody fucking disagrees with. Like, what are the anti-Gamergaters always arguing about? Like, it's wrong to dox women, and it's wrong to harass women and to sexually harass women. Like, nobody disagrees with that. Why are you even saying that? Like, who, like, where are the public figures that are saying we should be able to dox and harass women? Like, no one's saying that, you know? It just
Okay,
seems
so
like these conversations are such a fucking waste of time because people are just, like, talking about people that don't even fucking exist, you know?
yeah, I mean, okay, and again, this is another point for your experience. I haven't looked at every single tweet that's ever been made
I
on
mean,
the
this is
hash.
another one where you could just go through Anita's tweets where she says things literally like anybody, like I think word for word, it's not word for word quote, but it's very close. She said things along the lines of anybody who's a decent human being, get out of Gamergate right now. It's only reserved for like misogynists and women haters. Like literally, no, she's literally tweeted almost those exact words, and it's
The
like,
the thing is the preponderance. Okay, so like I guess maybe I'm coming from a biased standpoint because the articles I generally read on this subject are again from this SJW, the evil SJWs
mm-hmm.
standpoint, but it seems, I mean, and I think I have the article saved here, um, that the preponderance of tweets and discussions on the GamerGate thing is not pertaining to gamer journalism or any of this type of thing. It's generally criticizing and trying to drive out and harassing women. It seems like that is
I mean,
is
it
gen
might even
the
that might even be possible. And I think, honest to God, I think I know the exact article that you're talking about because I think I've seen it too, where it analyzes like the percentage of tweets made at females
exact
in the industry.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
you
I've seen
know
that
what I'm
exact
talking
article. Sure,
yeah.
but I mean, like one of the problems is like at this point, like it's everything has become so convoluted about the topic because so many so many very outspoken feminists have made themselves like central to it that like are you gonna say that every single negative tweet towards Anita Sarkeesian now qualifies as like a because there are plenty of legitimate arguments even if you support her there are plenty of legitimate arguments to be made against what she's saying, right?
There's yeah, there's
Like she does a
criticism to
lot
be
of
made.
bad things with those videos. Like she takes like for like one person made a really big deal about the did you see the video about her critiquing the Hitman game where like you can go in and like shoot and kill like some hookers or whatever?
Yeah, and there's
And
that's a that's an issue all by
yeah,
itself.
sure, sure. But I mean, like the problem with that article that you're talking about is that it takes like every single tweet made towards a woman, and it's like, oh well, look, like Gamergate has become more about women hating, blah blah blah. And I mean, like first of all, there is a lot of legitimate criticism that you can levy at the very prominent women that are profiteering off of the whole feminist movement thing, right? I say that that's kind of negative, but I mean, to some extent, that's a lot of what's happening.
I
Um,
mean, I don't think there's a shit ton of money to be made
I
in the
mean, Anita
feminist.
made a lot in her Kickstarter, and she was on Stephen Colbert a few nights ago. So I mean, she's gotten pretty big time
And
off of this.
you and I disagree about the uh, the legitimacy of her videos. Apparently, I think she makes very reasonable points. I think she prefaces every video with, "You could still enjoy something wow,
I know exactly. I think it's very important that we recognize that while we can appreciate something, we can also remain critical of some of its more devious aspects or whatever, right? I know she says that like word for word at the beginning, which is ironic because then later she tweets something like, "If you're part of Gamergate at all, get out because you're a terrible person," right? There's a little bit of irony there, right? You can see that, right?
okay.
Sure,
So
but I mean, like,
we
I don't
have to
even.
separate her argument,
Sure.
in the videos
Uh huh.
from some of the more uh let's say unadvisable tweets
Yeah,
she's made.
sure. And I mean, like, and the general idea behind her videos, like, I don't necessarily disagree with much of what she says in terms of like gaming being a big boys club. Like, I don't think anybody necessarily disagrees with that. There are a lot of somewhat negative tropes portraying women. I just don't know if like the way that she went about doing things and the overall message of her video is necessarily anything that's going to be conducive to getting anything done in the future ever. Like to just point out like, oh well, look at like here's some video games that like portray women in a bad way. Like here you go. Like for the most part,
That
I think we're
that's
all.
a
Or sorry, go ahead.
that's a point. Oh, what?
Or no, go ahead.
That's a point that I think we can kind of agree on. Is I think I think she may not be approaching the topic in a very
Conducive. It's
accessible
more.
accessible
It's like a preaching to the choir kind of thing, you know.
a little bit. But however, I mean, I think it's very important that she's doing it at all. I think that criticism
I
of
think
video
it would have been.
games.
I think it would have been better for someone else to do it. This sounds like a really shitty thing to say, but I don't think she was the right person to do that. She's been on record several times in the past, and now it's all over YouTube and shit, saying that she never played video games much growing up. She didn't really like video games. For her, who already has a very specific feminist agenda and not having been involved in the gaming community, to try to step into that arena and then bring her entire narrative with her, and then to try to shove it down everybody else's throat. And then as soon as she's called out on it, every single time she's called out on it, she plays the professional victim card, and she's given speech after speech after speech about how every time somebody's criticized her, it's just an example of how her videos are needed even more, you know? I think that there's so much legitimate criticism that could be levied at her that I don't think she's really even the right person to kind of give this kind of perspective anymore, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of a lot of people that critique her work.
Okay, so apparently you and I disagree on, how reasonable her points in her videos are. I think her points are really, pretty reasonable and pretty straightforward, and she just highlights, basically facts. I mean,
Sure.
that's
But I
I
mean,
guess.
the only reason you would care about any of the facts that she highlights is assuming you already 100% subscribe to her narrative of feminism anyway. Because if you don't subscribe to a specific thing, then all of the videos fall apart. For instance, the damsel in distress trope, right? The first one she did in her first video. Like, she just goes through like 50 million videos pointing out the damsel in distress. Everybody knows it exists. Like, that's a trope that's been used to tell stories for ages. But if you don't necessarily subscribe to her specific brand of feminism, like, you could watch that entire video and come away thinking like, okay, well, I mean, what's wrong with using that trope to tell a
So,
story?
so your actual disagreement then is that she should make an extra video saying this is why this is bad.
Possibly.
Is that kind of your point? Is that
Or maybe
is that
include more of that in it to show the negative effects. Because as her videos stand right now, the only people that ever go away from her videos feeling good are just going to be people that already believe everything she has to say. The only people watching those videos and agreeing with them are people who don't need to watch the videos and agree with them, you know?
I would somewhat agree with that. I would say that it would be cool if she explained. I mean, there's some basic, and you and I agree on this. There are some basic tenets of of like an epistemological kind of philosophical viewpoint you have to have to really consider those videos in their full extent. Like you have to first agree that culture affects a person's personality. Culture affects a person's behavior, and that not only that, but video games are part of this culture. Video games affect people's personalities. People, make decisions based on the things that they see in media. I think that's some basic tenets that you do have to accept to look at her videos and say, okay, she has some legitimate concerns. Like, if you don't accept those, I do kind of see why you would say, oh, well, this is stupid, is because you don't accept those basic tenets. I personally do accept those tenets. I've seen it. I mean, just from life experience, people's culture affects their personality. I accept that tenet. I think that she has legitimate criticism how females are portrayed in video games, and I think that it would be cool if we had a little bit different portrayal.
Sure.
And yeah,
And yeah, so I mean, yeah. Yeah. I think we agree again for the most part. Maybe just a little.
yeah. So I mean, and this is the reason I think that you're a good guy to talk to about this. I mean, people kind of demonize you a little bit for saying that type of, tweeting that stuff, and the type of, I don't know what you said about to Scarlett or whatever, but people demonize you a little bit, and again, they're going to jump to the conclusion that you're an asshole because they haven't watched your stream. And so if you do watch a stream, you do realize you just need to be convinced of the logic in certain arguments. I think that if I was prepared to present the feminist viewpoint extremely logically, that you would probably say you agree with it. I'm
Yeah,
not
for
totally
sure.
prepared. I'm not totally prepared to do that. So I could just bring up the points that I've thought about. Um, and this is I just want to say something to the chat. The white knight comments, like I don't even know what that is. Like why people actually think that people say this type of stuff that I'm saying to get laid or something. I mean,
Oh
what
no, I
kind of
don't think I don't think you're I don't think if people calling you a white knight, they're pretty dumb. I think that it gets levied at some people though, whether legitimately or not. I don't know. People like the risky Chris guy. It seems a
yeah.
little bit weird when they run up in every single thread, quick to, and I don't even know. But yeah, I mean, I
Please
don't.
be nice to women. Yeah, it's a little bit there's
Yeah.
I mean
Do you
it,
think that it's kind of this is a little bit off topic or whatever, but do you think that it's kind of strange? Actually, never mind. This is way off topic. Never mind.
no. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, do you think it feels almost like you can't ever criticize women or like have a discussion at all without instantly being labeled like the absolute worst kind of thing?
Maybe in certain communities, but I think in like if you just go outside, like if you go and talk to real people in real life, I mean,
Oh
you could
yeah, sure. It's not as bad as like the social media internet game makes it appear. Sure.
you can totally have these type of discussions in real life. I've had them. I've met
Sure.
people that have different viewpoints. It's the internet is a weird fucking thing. Both you and I know this. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It makes everything into a weird kind of subculture that it doesn't reflect
Yeah.
reality
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of.
So then,
Um,
after all of this, do you think the reaction to what Cass treated was appropriate? The Madalist's blog, the tweets.
I I think that she had somewhat of a legitimate reason to be upset. I think I have to referencing, so I don't know.
Oh,
Um,
it got linked, but it's in Swedish.
okay.
Sorry.
So I think Cass said a really stupid thing, and I think that the use of that word, we should probably just try not to use it. It's a really stupid word, and we could find different ways to express ourselves. It's a really horrible thing. I mean, if you have any, I don't know if you have any family or friends that have dealt with that type of issue, but really it is a big deal, and it's an emotional thing, and it really sucks. And that's why people get so upset about it. It's hard to explain how horrible it is when you actually have personal experience with it. It's really fucking horrible, and that's why it's so important to people. These rational discussions we're having are can be rational because I'm assuming you and no, neither have I been actually raped, but people that have or sexually assaulted, it's an extremely emotional issue because it's a horrible thing. It's hard to express how horrible it is. Um, I do think so. To answer your question, I do think that it was appropriate to dismiss him. I do think that he's learned his lesson. I highly doubt it's going to happen again. Madalisk has said the same thing. I think that we do need to move away from this type of language in gaming culture. Whatever. It would be nice. I do think it's going to take a long time to do so, and I do think you have a legitimate point in that it's not going to change overnight. We gotta present these arguments, and I'm really encouraged that you're able to entertain people like me, and broadcast my opinions and similar opinions on your channel. That's really cool. So I appreciate that.
All right. Well, yeah, I appreciate the discussion, man.
All right. So that was cool, and if you want to ever talk about it again, feel free. I'll be I'll be around.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks for the discussion, man. I'll see you later, bro.
All right, see you. Bye.